Hey everybody, this is Alex Ducellier-Meller, and this is Dressage Schooling Exercises, Episode 9. This is Inner and Outer Figure Eights. Today you're watching Marius. Marius is named after Marius from Les Miserables, so a shout out to all of you musical fans. He's a 5-year-old unraced thoroughbred gelding. I bought him in the summer. I think it was the beginning of July. He has, I love him. He's amazing. He has one of the most common, I think, problems, especially in thoroughbreds, in that he wants to duck behind the vertical and drop the contact a bit. And I'm sure that I'm going to get tons of outraged comments about my horse being behind the vertical, and I'm going to try not to let that bother me, because I want to tell you this is not a finished product. I'm not advocating that your horse should go behind the vertical, but I am acknowledging that a lot of horses want to go behind the vertical and drop the contact. And this exercise in particular, I think, helps that. And honestly, some horses want to be there, and so it just takes time to get them strong and get them trusting the bit and wanting to touch it and reach out to it. So realistically, this is what a lot of us have to deal with. And again, I'm not saying that this is a finished product, but getting the horse to reach out to the contact takes some time. So this is one of my exercises to assist in that. The purpose of this exercise is to improve connection and throughness and straightness. Marius struggles a bit with pushing evenly from both hind legs into both sides of the bit, so we get a lot of head tilt at times. He also struggles a lot with bending through his body instead of stepping out with his haunches or tipping in with his shoulders. So your exercise this week is inner and outer figure eights. You start with a 10-meter circle left to a 10-meter circle right. That's your inner figure eight. And then as you finish the second 10-meter circle, you're going to go on to a 20-meter circle right in the canter. So Marius is still figuring out his leads, so several times through this video you'll see him pick up the incorrect lead, and I just correct that as quickly as possible. No big deal, no punishment. And then when you finish that 20-meter circle in the canter, you do the figure eight again, but starting with the inner circle. So if you were tracking right, you do your 10-meter circle right first, and your 10-meter circle left second. And then as you finish that 10-meter circle left, you're going to canter and do a 20-meter circle left. So if you didn't follow that, no big deal. You're about to watch it about 50 times, so I'm sure you'll pick it up. So I enjoy this exercise because you get a chance to practice a lot of transitions. When I was thinking about what exercise to do this week, I almost didn't choose one with canter transitions because Marius's transitions are so weak. And then I realized that that's the problem, is that we avoid these things that are a little sticky rather than working through them. So I made myself do it, and here you are. So every time he picks up the wrong lead, again, I just fix it as quickly as possible. And watching this video, I see he looks a little quick in his tempo. I think what I was feeling when I was riding him was that he wasn't really pushing from behind. Like, he gets a little bit lofty and stuck, if that makes sense. Like, he gets a lot of air time, but he's not really going anywhere. So I'm kind of in this phase of pushing him more forward to see if he'll reach out to the bridle a bit better. With these horses that, I think this transition's ugly, oh well. With these horses that don't want to reach out to the contact, I just try to stay as steady in my contact as I can. I find that just floating your reins doesn't really help You have to kind of keep the bit in both corners of their mouth, but obviously not pulling or blocking, just receiving the energy with your contact. What I do like about this exercise as I go through is Marius starts to get more supple. I'm pretty demanding. I started to say picky, but I think demanding is the better word, about his inside bend, because I cannot stand it when horses lean in. So you can see me kind of nagging him with the inside heel, particularly to the left, asking him to wrap around my inside calf and engage inside hind. So this exercise, these 10-meter circles, work really well for horses that tend to run through their down transitions or come out of the canter on the forehand in the trot. Marius is not that horse. He just wants to get a little up and lofty. But for those horses that get on the forehand after the canter, the 10-meter circle really encourages them to balance. So it's a super good exercise if your horse needs some help with the balance coming out of the canter, or if they come out of the canter and grab the bit or whatever. So the curling problem is one of the hardest problems to fix. What I like about Marius is, despite the curling, he gives a really cool feel. He's really elastic and balanced and just super fun to ride. So I get a little bit frustrated watching these videos because he feels pretty phenomenal in his body, just short in his neck. And then when I watch the videos, all I can see is that he's short in his neck. But I think that as you go through this exercise, you can kind of see that although he's obviously still behind the vertical, he's getting a bit steadier in the connection, taking that contact a little bit more solidly, both sides of his body, both reins. And again, like, the lead's not a big deal. It's just going to be repetition. I can pretty consistently influence him to get the correct lead by posting on the wrong diagonal, but at some point I'd like him to take the correct lead because I give the aid for the correct lead. So I made a conscious decision not to post on the wrong diagonal into the canter in this exercise. And he's a little confused by that, but he needs to start to understand that outside leg back means canter on a specific lead. And I just heard myself get really nasally. I apologize. I've got a cold, so I'm suffering through that at the moment. And you guys are just going to have to listen to my super nasally voice. So I like some of these moments here. Like, there are moments when Marius kind of slows down his front leg and speeds up his hind leg and gets a more consistent rhythm. Like, I like that whole figure 8 there, and touches the bit more steadily. A lot of times I teach lessons or I teach clinics, and people are obsessed with their canter transitions. Like, oh my God, why does my horse hollow in the canter transition? And my best answer is that the horse is not connected leg to hand, or not strong, not balanced. So with my young horses, I really don't focus on the lack of connection in the canter transition specifically. I just kind of work on the connection, and usually that transition solves itself. So I'm not stressed at all about the fact that Marius hollows a bit in the transition. As he gets strong and figures out his biomechanics, he will learn to stay more through his back in that whole transition from trot to canter. I like this here. He's starting to reach more out to the bridle. Obviously as I ride it, I also think that it was better because I decided to let him off on that with a little bit of a stretch. So horses that curl really benefit quite a bit from going from stretch to working trot and back to stretch. And that's another thing I do with him a lot, is transition from the longer frame to the more working frame. Hopefully that exercise is helpful. I know it's not like a groundbreaking, innovative exercise, but it's one of my go-tos for transitions and connection, straightness problems, all of that. And it's, well, it's just a good, solid exercise, I guess, for horses of all levels and riders of all levels. So that's it for this week. Hope you guys all have a super week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.